Good morning, everyone. Today is Saturday, November 18th, and before I get started here, I'd just like everybody to make sure that they read the disclaimer at the front of this and also at the bottom of the landing page. This is strictly for entertainment purposes and understanding trend lines and indicators and trying to define some patterns. Today's coverage will be on Fdit, which is findit.com. Current price is 0.23. And what I'd like to do here is look at multiple time frames, draw out some trend lines, look at potentials, supports, and resistances. Um, Before I overlay any kind of indicators, I want to take a look at some trend lines here and go over the history on this one here. I'm going to start out real quick here by defining, this big move that we had here. This is about 1,300% back in 2014. Yeah, I have a few years here just to identify long and short-term pattern trend lines. So, coming off the top of these, this is going to be your next resistance area, and you could see here that it's consolidated after this big move for quite some time here. You're going to say, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 years? And again, this is the weekly chart, but we'll leave this here just for the purposes of the moves. Um, Coming back in the last 2 years, we'll start focusing on that right here, and then we'll move to a lower time frame and overlay some indicators. As of now, you could see here, you had a big move right here after you broke this, you hit this top here. So this was, you look at this as a consolidation for 2 years, and it met its resistance off a move here. It came up and hit this top candle here. You can see how patterns matter because this move here, it still continued to the upside, pulled back a little bit, and then came up and hit the top of the box. And this consolidation box was resistance. So as you come over here to the next big move after it consolidated, which was you had your low here, and this is a higher low over here. It came up and hit it again. So you get a triple top there. And it really stays in consolidation until it breaks the box. And you can see here by this candle on this last big move that has taken place. Now, when that takes place, generally what you're looking for is a defined pattern of resistance, and by using this candle here and this candle here, which is creating a trend line to the upside on that consolidation box, you can see how well this lines up right here. So this was met with resistance, and it was a big move here. This one here was approximately, right up to the top here is about 621%. So it really took off just like the last time, but it was met with this trend line resistance. And also now we created this line here, which is your downtrend line. But one good thing here, it was finally broken out of this long-term consolidation box. The company's been putting out a lot of press, the development and them executing on their business model is actually coming together very nicely if you review all their press releases and put all that together, which I recommend because you can see the developments as they move forward. People are starting to take notice. So what we're doing here is just defining what it looks like right now, and you can see this is the weekly chart. So as of now, this is going to be resistance. When this breaks, or if this breaks here, you're looking at 3.9, and then when this breaks, normally you're going to come back up to this trend line again. So what you're looking for is the next level of consolidation. So if we get rid of this one here, and we say to ourselves, okay, well, we have a high and a low going on the weekly now. So, here's your high on that breakout. And so we'll mark that with a consolidation box. And then you have a double bottom on the weekly here, which is pretty solid. You can see here that perfect. It's matching right here. So you're in a higher consolidation versus what you were in, going back over here. With a little bit of a breakout on the upside. So the consolidation seems to be holding this box now and potentially could come up and test and break and test the top of the box again, and then also come up here. Or it's going to come back and find its support again, which is going to be higher from this low here. So it's definitely something to watch for. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to add some indicators and look at stuff like that. So on the weekly, you can see we had that big move right here, and your stochastics came up, hit the top line, took a little bit of a break, and created some consolidation. And now that it's consolidating, you can see, you're starting to get a little cross here, which could indicate a move higher to the upside. So, with that being said, we do have the weekly resistance here, and you also have a downtrend line. Okay, and your downtrend line is right here. So any break of this, 9 times out of 10, you're going to come up and test here, here, and here, which is this one's your long term. So if you break the long term, which is going to be probably about 04 in that area, then you'll start to mess around with these up here acting as resistance. So let's throw this down to a daily real quick so you can see what the daily's doing. And you can see your lows were over here, and you had that big move, and you're sitting very tight right now, with multiple bottoms on the bottom of this box, which would be considered consolidation. Here's your upside resistance, double top, and you're starting to get ready to test this line again, and then potentially test this line. And with that being said, it's getting ready to do something here, because this is more or less coming into a defined pattern of a pattern break. So either it's going to be hard support and break to the upside. So we'll add indicators. You can see a stow again is coming to the upside. So the daily looks a little more secure, but we'll have to see what happens in the future. Getting down to the indicators, and we'll look at multiple time frames. I have the stow here, RSI here. Your big moves here, and you could see, this move here, it's about 600%, has done really well. It came back, consolidated, created, support over here at S3, and then the 50-day moving average was also support, has been solid support. It did not come down and break that. It actually bounced off it here. You can see a stow is getting ready to move to the upside. It's a little, your RSI is oversold. You're on the level line now. We're just getting ready to break the pivot. If this pivot breaks on the weekly next week, you can start getting a reversal back up to the upside, which if it does, you could see here, it's very important that the trend line, you know, is right here. So this 0.3 is going to be a tough area, because you have your moving average 9, you have your middle Bollinger Band, but you do have that support here. So it's really fallen in line with your trend lines, also with your indicators and your trend lines, why this was support on the double bottom and triple bottom on the multiple time frames. So this is the weekly, but this candle here is this is pretty much a solid doji, and it's usually a bullish candle. So we'll have to see what happens coming into next week. They also had some a press release on Friday, which they're rolling out their Prime membership, which is right on this page, just underneath. Make sure you check out the video. Great stuff for Google keywords and so on and so forth. But it's really important that you check that out if you want to follow this company and watch the developments in the recent months. But as you can see here, we have this solid support here. This is the daily now in the Bollinger Band with the resistance right here. But all your indicators are really starting to point to the upside. If you go long term here and look at the monthly, let's zoom in a little bit here. You could see, with this higher low and this consolidation, it's really important to know that this consolidation that was going on here is now acting as support. So future moves in the Bollinger Band spreads, you could see how the Bollinger Band spread, when it takes a big move to the upside, it actually, your resistance is going to be the pivot here, because it made the big move, blew outside the Bollinger Bands, and it had to come down and consolidate a little bit, and it really has. And again, this is the monthly. I just want to identify that, but once you get over your pivot line and these Bollinger Bands, you can see they're starting to turn to the upside, which is a really great sign. and it could get moving. And you could see here, normally when you're going over time, you're going to come into resistance, which will be your previous candles up here, which really that's what it took place. You can see here, because it's a longer term consolidation box, so it's really inside this area here with those candles. But you're getting ready to you're really testing the upside at this point. If with this breaks, you have 5 4 6 4 here as R3 on the monthly, and then after that there are really no candles of resistance until the 1468. So I guess if they're, if the company is doing what they're supposed to be doing, investors are taking notice, this thing could long term do very well. I haven't looked at the quarterly on this, but it could be very interesting. You have a little test right here of your let's see, which this indicator, I'm sorry, was the EMA 8, and you have your indicator starting to point to the upside over here, but your pivot is at 3.2 for the quarterly, and then it gets up to 10 cents. So on a long term, you could see, you're really just, all this consolidation here is starting to break now. With the company developments and so on and so forth. So it's very important to see how this plays out. This pivot 3.2, then we have 10 cents up here on the quarterly. So longer term, 4 more quarters, we'll have to see what happens. But once we get over this pivot here and axis support, you can see a Bollinger Band spread here takes it all the way up to 21 cents. So not just looking at short term, but long term, with the shorter term support being these higher lows right here, which is really coming into play on your longer term snapshot of this, because you have this candle here, and this candle here. So the trend is really being defined as a pattern of incline, not decline at this point. But you get a little resistance in here, and it's good to take notice that the trend is to the upside. So looking at the longer term version, you get a pivot at 3.2 on this quarterly, and then usually if that acts as support when we end the quarter, which would be December, then next year could be very interesting for this company, as long as they're still doing what they're doing, and which is growing and rolling out everything they need to roll out. And we'll have to see what happens. I will update this video as time goes on, so be aware of that. That way you can follow along and see how it goes. But we do have support here on this trend line, and this trend line looks like it's going to be about I'm sorry, S3, which is going to be 1316 in that area, along with the MA9. So if you're looking for long term, you can see the pattern right now, the top candles, bottom candles, and this is the pattern. So just keep an eye on Fdit, watch for developments, and follow them closely. All right, everyone, have yourself a fantastic weekend. Remember to read the disclaimer. This is not any kind of investment advice in any way, shape, or form. Just identify and profit, potential profits, or identifying your stop losses. So just keep an eye out for Fdit, and have yourself a fantastic weekend. And if I don't do a video before Thanksgiving, enjoy your Thanksgiving.